The footage opens with a haunting image from Khan Yunis. Hamas militants carry a white-wrapped body through narrow alleys, their faces hidden, their movements deliberate. The plastic sheet ripples faintly in the wind, a grim symbol of Gaza's reality, where ceasefires exist only in name. Israel confirmed today it has received 2 more bodies of hostages captured during the October 7th attack. The remains were handed over to the International Committee of the Red Cross inside Gaza and transferred through the border crossing under tight coordination. They will now be sent to Israel's National Forensic Institute for identification, the latest step in a painstaking, politically fraught process that continues to test the fragile truce brokered by the United States. For weeks, the ceasefire had held, barely, yet the atmosphere remains tense, charged with mutual suspicion and the weight of grief. The exchange of bodies was meant to symbolize progress. Instead, it has become another chapter in a cycle of accusation, violence, and mistrust. Israeli officials say Hamas has now returned the remains of 15 out of 28 hostages it committed to release under the deal, but the deliveries have come unevenly with unexplained delays and, in some cases, shocking irregularities. Earlier this week, Israel accused Hamas of handing over partial remains, fragments belonging to a hostage whose full body, forensic experts say, had already been returned 2 years ago. The revelation prompted public outrage in Jerusalem and calls from grieving families for accountability. In Gaza, the response was defensive. Hamas claimed it had acted in good faith, saying it was returning the 16th of 28 promised bodies. Its officials insisted the mistake was unintentional, a reflection of the chaos left behind by months of airstrikes, collapsed tunnels, and shattered morgues. But Israel's leadership views the incident differently. A senior government spokesman said the act violated the spirit of the ceasefire, calling it a cruel distortion of humanitarian principles. The statement underscored a deepening mistrust at the heart of the current negotiations, mistrust that threatens to unravel the very framework that has allowed even limited humanitarian relief to pass through the Rafah crossing. As the camera pans to Beit Lahia, Israeli military footage fills the screen, an aerial view of the northern Gaza Strip. In the distance, a missile arcs downward, a bright flash, then a plume of smoke. The Israeli Defense Forces claim the strike targeted a launch position used for attacks against IDF troops. The release of the video came hours after the death of an Israeli soldier near Khan Yunis, the first since the truce began. That single event has reshaped the fragile balance. On Tuesday night, the Israeli Air Force launched a series of retaliatory strikes across the Strip. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency, operating under Hamas authority, reported more than 100 deaths, including dozens of children. The night was described as the deadliest since the truce began. By dawn, the rhythm of destruction was visible in every direction: collapsed homes, smoking craters, families searching through rubble. In the central camp of Nusayrat, a young boy sits alone amid the ruins of his house. His face is grey with dust, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Behind him, men carry small white bundles. The bodies of children laid gently on the ground as prayers echo through the streets. For journalists and aid workers on the ground, the pattern is depressingly familiar. Every pause in fighting becomes a race to deliver aid, to recover bodies, to document the damage before the next round begins. By Wednesday morning, Israel announced the ceasefire would resume. The government framed the strikes as a necessary response to a provocation, not a full resumption of war. "We will continue to honour the truce," said a Defence Ministry statement, "but we will not tolerate attacks on our soldiers." In practice, that balance is almost impossible to sustain. Hamas, for its part, denies involvement in the incident that killed the Israeli soldier. In a rare statement issued through its media office, the group claimed the firefight was triggered by local resistance units not affiliated with its command structure. The message was meant to reassure mediators in Washington and Doha, but in Israel, few are convinced. Through all of this, the diplomatic machinery continues to turn. In Washington, State Department officials reaffirmed their commitment to maintaining the truce and ensuring the return of all hostages, alive or dead. A spokesperson described the process as imperfect but essential, urging both sides to avoid any steps that might collapse the fragile calm. Cairo and Doha remain deeply involved, serving as conduits between negotiators who no longer trust each other enough to meet directly. Behind closed doors, however, mediators acknowledge the strain. Every new strike, every miscommunication about body transfers adds days to an already fragile timetable. The humanitarian cost mounts. According to UN relief agencies, more than 200 trucks carrying food and medicine are still waiting to enter Gaza. The hold-up, they say, is due to security verification delays. Inside the Strip, hospitals continue to struggle. In Khan Yunis, the main medical complex has been converted into a makeshift morgue. Doctors describe working around the clock with limited power and dwindling supplies. "We receive bodies faster than we can identify them," said one exhausted physician, his gloves stained red. "Every hour brings new faces." The larger political context looms over every development. For Israel's government, the recovery of hostages, whether alive or dead, has become both a moral mission and a test of authority. Prime Minister Netanyahu faces mounting pressure from families, opposition leaders, and coalition partners who demand clearer outcomes. For Hamas, the returns serve as leverage, a means to extract concessions or delay retaliatory actions. This is not the first time the issue of remains has shaped Israeli-Palestinian negotiations. Past prisoner exchanges have included similar arrangements, often mediated by the Red Cross or third-party governments. But never before have such exchanges occurred under a US-brokered truce of this magnitude, and never with so much scrutiny from global media and international courts. On social media, the families of hostages voiced mixed reactions. Some welcomed the return of remains, seeing in it a painful form of closure. Others demanded that the government suspend talks until Hamas fulfills its commitments in full. "We cannot negotiate with those who desecrate our dead," wrote one mother whose son remains missing in Gaza. In Tel Aviv, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum gathered again outside the Defense Ministry. Candles flicker beneath photographs of the captives. Names are read aloud, one by one. Each is followed by a silence that seems to stretch longer with every passing day. Across the border in Khan Yunis, the camera captures a very different scene. Men dig near makeshift tents using heavy machinery, part of a grim recovery effort. Hamas fighters stand watch nearby, some entering narrow tunnels carved into the sand. The footage, filmed by local journalists, offers a rare glimpse of the subterranean world beneath Gaza, a world where many of the missing are believed to lie buried. Forensic experts say the retrieval of bodies from collapsed tunnels is a slow and dangerous process. The risk of secondary explosions remains high, and many passageways are filled with toxic gases. Yet, for Hamas, each recovery carries political weight, a way to demonstrate compliance with the ceasefire and to keep the US and Egyptian mediators engaged. Meanwhile, Israeli officials accuse the group of using these same tunnels to hide weapons and shield its leadership. Intelligence assessments released in Jerusalem this week describe a network stretching hundreds of kilometers, connecting command bunkers, storage sites, and escape routes. The report calls it a parallel city beneath Gaza. In Beit Lahia and Deir el-Bala, aerial images reveal flattened neighborhoods. The soundscape is eerily repetitive, the whine of drones overhead, the crunch of boots through debris, the muted sobs of survivors. Women weep beside small shrouded bodies. Men whisper funeral prayers under tarpaulins, their hands raised toward a sky filled with smoke. Observers warn that the political symbolism attached to each handover risks overshadowing the humanitarian imperative. Each side treats the remains as evidence of moral standing, of commitment, of control, while the families themselves wait for closure that never truly arrives. As dusk falls over Gaza, the landscape takes on a muted hue, grey dust blending with the dim orange of the setting sun. In Deir el-Bala, funeral prayers rise once more. The bodies of children are lowered into shallow graves, their names written in marker on small stones. Nearby, a woman weeps softly, her voice blending with the sound of wind through broken walls. The footage returns briefly to Khan Yunis, men hauling white-wrapped bodies through narrow paths, the same image that opened this report. The repetition feels deliberate, a reminder that despite diplomatic language and political calculations, the core reality remains unchanged. A territory where death is managed, not prevented, where every ceasefire is provisional, and where the act of returning a body becomes an act of negotiation. As the video closes, the narrator's tone softens. What began as a truce designed to halt the war has instead become a fragile ritual of exchange. life for life, body for body, accusation for denial. Each side insists it is honouring its commitments, yet both know that the trust required for real peace is far more elusive than any body recovered from the rubble. In the end, the story of these two returned hostages is not just about identification or diplomacy. It is about the limits of what a ceasefire can achieve in a landscape still governed by fear and vengeance. The Red Cross convoys may keep moving, the negotiators may keep talking, but on the ground, the faces of grief remain the same, silent, dust-covered and waiting. The screen fades to black, the sound of distant prayer, lingering just long enough to remind viewers that beneath every headline, every statement and every statistic, there are human lives and the unending search to bring them home.